Hello, viewers. Today I want to talk about the four waves of feminism and how they impacted gender representation in multimedia. Starting off with the first wave, which occurred in 1830s until early 1900s, this wave of feminism was focused towards representation of women in politics and the political rights of women. Women at this age wanted equal political rights as men. One of the examples of this, or one of the highlights of this wave, was the women's fight for suffrage. Back then, women weren't allowed to vote, but the feminists of this period fought very hard and many suffered, many struggled to gain the right to vote for women. And then for the second wave, which occurred in 1960s to 1980s, this was after World War II. This wave of feminism was focused and saw emphasis on equal representation of women in the workplace. Lots of women wanted to work. That was one of the highlights of this wave. Another highlight would be that women wanted reproduction rights. They wanted control of reproduction. So they advocated, or they fought for the open availability of contraceptives, such and as well as abortion, contraceptive methods, so that they could control their reproduction. This movement of feminism was also linked with other movements such as the Black civil rights, the LGBTQ movement, and the civil rights movements. So the reason why they joined is that they realized that in order to gain respect in co-ed workspaces, gender equality must first be achieved. Now for the third wave of feminism, we have it was during 1990s until early 2000s. So this wave of feminism was focused on being liberated, or liberating women from the femininity stereotype, for the gender norms associated with women that was established by the patriarchy. So what this means is stuff like how a woman should act, how a woman should dress, uh, how a woman should look like, how should they behave. Now during the third wave of feminism, there were a lot of icons that displayed or went against the gender norms that was associated with women. Another highlight of this wave was the separation of sexuality and gender. And another one was how Butler said that gender is a performance rather than just biological. So a person or individual could have uh, masculine or feminine gender based on their characteristics. Aside from this is also a very liberated period of sexual expression and sexual orientation for women. Now, for the fourth wave of feminism, which is 2000s to present, the highlights of this wave, from what I have observed and from my research, is body positivity, eliminating rape culture, violence against women, social media movements like the hashtag MeToo, and LGBTQA plus and gender equality and freedom. Now, let's look into the examples of these waves in media. So, for the first wave, I thought of Daenerys Targaryen from the TV show Game of Thrones. In the beginning of Game of Thrones, Khaleesi experienced similar discrimination, subjugation, and treatment void of dignity the women of medieval times, where women were subjected by men, imprisoned to perform gender roles of the society, subjected to sexual violence and abuse, as well as she was married off to Khal Drogo unwillingly for political motives, which was common in medieval times. But throughout the events of the show, she takes over the kingdom of Khal Drogo, her husband who later dies, and with her horrible brother also now dead. Under her rule, she made it so that women in her kingdom were treated equally with men and with dignity. This aligns with the agenda of the first wave of feminism when it comes to women's equality and political rights, like the right to vote. We could also say that this aligns with the desire for political representation of women. Now, for the second wave, I think of Keep Your Head Up by Tupac. Now, this song of Tupac, in the first and third verses, Tupac talks about themes of the situation of single mothers whose male partners slash fathers of their child had abandoned them to fend for their own. He also talks about the gender discrimination and sexual violence women are subjected to. The first and second waves were arguably more centered towards white middle class women. So this song of Tupac Shakur is a good representation that African American women of the lower class also experience the same mistreatment. Arguably, the song is a good representation of the second wave's fight for women's reproductive rights, elimination of sexual and gender-based violence, as well as representation for women of all races and socio-economic status white outside the middle class, white woman focused first wave. And one quote that I'd like to cite that shows this is by Tupac Shakur. And since a man can't make one, he has no right to tell a woman when and where to create one. For the third wave, I would like to cite the song music video Be the Gal early summer version by Hanabi, which is a new song. So I believe this is a good representation of third wave feminism because there are elements in the video that align with the ideas of the wave, such as being liberated from the ideas of femininity established by a patriarchal society and deviance from gender norms. The extras in the music video are in a getup connected to the Gyaru culture of Japan. Gyarus often have brightly dyed hair, unorthodox and often considered unmodest fashion sense, and tan skin, which all go against the idea of femininity and female beauty standards in Japan. Another point that I would like to bring up here are the artists themselves. Hanabi is a Japanese metal band which I consider to be under kawaii metal, a subgenre of metal that combines Japanese popular music and Japanese metal slash rock music. Metal used to be, or I argue even until now, is a male-dominated industry and underground genre. A music culture often avoided by others due to misconceptions and assumptions of its relation to the occult. However, in recent years, more and more female artists have gained fame and popularity in the metal and rock genres. Many of these bands slash artists have songs that in general is all about individuality and liberation. The band in this moment, or the bands such as in this moment in particular, have a lot of songs about women empowerment and commentaries about the struggles of women, such as their songs Whore and Blood. Now, for the fourth wave and the final wave of feminism, uh, so we have, I present to you the article by BBC, Timeline of the Charges Against Sean Combs. So, the hashtag MeToo movement, which is under the fourth feminism wave, started when women in the entertainment industry came forward with sexual misconduct charges against Harvey Weinstein. Another example would be Dan Snyder and Nickelodeon, and how the underage stars he worked with often felt uncomfortable working with the producer due to his predatory nature. Then we have the recent cases of P. Diddy with fourth wave feminism. The main ideas are body positivity, fighting against sexual violence and abuse towards women, and arguably this is the wave where feminism has become strongly represented thanks to social media. With the case of P. Diddy, many women, both celebrity and non-celebrity, have come forward with charges against P. Diddy for sexual-related misconducts and crimes. Most concerning the involvement of minors in his freak-off parties where orgies would occur. I cited this example because I believe it is a great representation of the fourth wave of feminism stance against sexual violence towards women and how modern media and social media has become a permanent medium for the movement. Arguably, each wave of feminism wouldn't be possible without the previous one that came before. If we didn't have the first wave, would we even see female politicians or discourse about political issues related to women? Without the second wave, would abortion even be a thing? And would there still be women in the workforce? The waves of feminism has given a voice to women, and hence women all over the world are pushing for representation in every industry that we can see in media, whether it be in business, politics, or entertainment. Feminism has established a presence in media where women can openly enjoy their rightful liberation, and be given a voice. Thank you so much for listening, viewers, and I hope that was very educational. Have a good day.